This is the Tammi Reiss Show on the Rhody Sports Network from Learfield. Tonight's show is brought to you by People's Credit Union, the official partner of URI Women's Athletics. Pizza Gourmet, Rhode Island's wood-grilled pizza crust, is a proud sponsor of URI Athletics. Dunkin' Donuts, sip the Rhody way. Rhode Island Medical Imaging, the official medical imaging company of URI Athletics. Newport Propane, Rhode Island's #1 choice for all your propane needs. Ortho Rhode Island, the official orthopedic and sports medicine provider for URI Athletics. Dave's Fresh Marketplace, better food, better service. Now, here's your host, Zach Austin.
Welcome to the Tammi Reiss Coaches Show, presented by the Mews Tavern. We're also live on the Rhody Sports Network. Thanks to everyone who came out to the Mews tonight. We're here on the Tammi Reiss Coaches Show, which is powered by People's Credit Union, the official partner of URI Women's Athletics. I'm Zach Austin, and I'm, of course, as always, joined by the head coach, Tammi Reiss. Coach, obviously a tough stretch to end the regular season. We'll get to that in a second. I wanted to start with a question, something that came a few weeks ago. Your friend Dawn Staley is writing a book.
Yes.
How do you feel about that? Is there any Tammi Reiss mentions in that book at all?
You know, there's a lot of things coming out from Dawn. Dawn's got the book coming out in May, which, you know, hopefully there's not a lot of stories of us in college, but I'm scared there might be. She's also got a special coming out on her. The past, I think, 2 weeks, I've done more Dawn Staley interviews than I've done Rhode Island interviews, but got quite a few things being released with her as there should be. So I'm actually really excited to get a signed copy of the book and be able to read it. And she said, you know, don't hold it against me if I release all personal information, because I've done it to her before. So just can't wait to read it, though. It's going to be, you know, if you don't know her story, she's got an incredible story.
No doubt about it. Women's athletics, of course, on the rise, and a great book for everybody to read. So definitely get a copy of that once it comes out. Of course, regular season out in the rearview mirror. Atlantic 10 tournament coming up later this week. Tough end to the season for your group, but, you know, now that the weekend's over, you step back a little bit from those two games. Kind of where's the team at now, and what's the mindset looking like going into the tournament?
Well, you know, obviously we were all really, really, really disappointed after the game. You know, St. Louis, we were disappointed, but it's different when it happens at home in front of your, you know, these people, the people you love and the people you want to play for and win for. And so it was really, really difficult being able to, you know, fight for even a third or fourth finish in league and a double bye. But, you know, I think I gave him 2 days off and really to reset, step back a little bit, and you got to get your mojo back, especially mentally. It's not physically that, you know, you encounter issues when you go through a losing spell, or it's resetting yourself, keeping your mind in a positive manner of positivity, happiness, joy. You have a tendency to go downward a little bit. So I wanted them to get away, regroup for 2 days, and then reset when we start practice tomorrow. And I truly mean reset. I mean, the end of the season's done. You can't go back and you can't change it. And, you know, you got to learn from it. And now it's a completely new season. And what it's going to take to go down to Richmond and win and go to postseason. What's that going to take and what's it going to look like? And making sure they're mentally prepared. We have to get healthy physically. We've had the bug go through our team the past week, through our coaching staff, through our team. I think we're on the mend from that. But it's more mental now, is getting them geared up, getting them happy, getting them joyous to go down and compete. And so I think our fans have all recovered. You see them all here today supporting us still no matter what. And that's a great thing. You know, I think they know we don't want to lose for them. You know, we definitely don't want to lose for them. So, you know, to see everyone here today supporting our kids no matter through thick or thin, you know, I've always said this. That's why I love Rhody Nation. That's why I love our fans, because, you know, they give you love when you need it the most. And when you lose, you need it the most. You really do. And so support is everything. But reset physically and mentally and really get them excited to play again. It's a new season. It's 0-0, and it's anyone's game down in Richmond.
Absolutely. Records thrown out the window, but before we fully throw them out, I do want to read a few numbers to you, and this is the standard that's been set with this program. It's an expectation every year, and it's still just as impressive. Another year with 10 or more home wins. It's happened 5 in the 6 years you've been the head coach, excluding the shortened COVID season 2020-21. Also 10 conference wins or more in the last 5 seasons. So still a great season for your group, despite, records going out the window, postseason starting, still a lot of things to be proud about, certainly, for your group. And, when you look at the season, I think there was a clear turning point towards the end of non-conference, start of conference, where things started to look up. And you talked at the time about changing a few things and kind of how the team's been operating, seeing joy come back into the building. Are you at a point now after these last 2 games where you're sticking with what's worked, kind of getting back to that, or maybe looking to make some more adjustments heading into March?
No, I think we're set on, again, it's fluid during a game. If someone gets in foul trouble or if someone's not playing well or not mentally ready, you've got to make adjustments. You've got to be fluid. We played zone the other day when we were having problem getting stops. We press at times. We'll make adjustments in game, but practice, I want it to be lighter. I want it to be funner. One thing we're going to do a lot tomorrow is get shots up, and really have a good time together and enjoy our last few practices, getting ready for the tournament, and just get a buzz about them again. Quick and short practices where they have their legs, they feel really good physically going in. But again, focus on the mental aspect of feeling really good playing with each other. And I think taking 2 days off, we definitely have to get a lot of shots up and get our legs back under us. But I think we're good with we know our rotations. We know the kids that play the heavy minutes, but we will always make adjustments for unseen expectation going through a game. That's when you're going to have to be fluid and make some certain adjustments and take some risks.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Taking a lot of shots. I will say, and I wanted to talk about this, the defense has been extraordinary this year. Best defense in the conference through the regular season. Your last win against UMass a couple Sundays ago was the last in a rivalry game, a long-standing rivalry before UMass departs the conference. Just go back for a little bit, talk about that win briefly and what the future maybe of that rivalry might look like for those who didn't hear the other day.
Us and UMass have had the most incredible games for years now, especially when we were 1-2 in conference and we were fighting for a championship for that 1 year, and they were just drag-out, knockout fights, and really, really enjoyed the competition between us. And so to have someone so close, and I do think they're our rivals. They're our closest rival. It's sad to see them leave the league because I think Mike is building something that fell off a little bit after Torrey left, but I think he's getting it back to where, UMass has always been. And so I'm really sad that they're leaving the conference. But after next year, we will renew the home and home with them. They couldn't get us in 25, 26. But after that, we will always play UMass. We'll have a home and home just like we do with Providence. So I am excited about that.
Yeah, certainly something to look forward to in the future. And another thing about that game that stood out, it certainly wasn't the prettiest win overall, but 23 turnovers was a season high. I believe last 2 games you actually won the turnover battle despite losses. What are you seeing in terms of taking care of the ball, and maybe how does that correlate to other areas, and how can you maybe lead that more towards a winning result even when you win the turnover battle?
We have certain goals that we have to hit that we know if we struggle in, it usually equates to a loss. And so turnovers is one of them. We have to make sure we get shots because we usually are a great offensive rebounding team. So if we get shots, even if we miss them, we can rebound and have a chance to get an extra possession and put it back. So taking care of the ball and rebounding and defense are staples. We have to be able to execute that because we don't always shoot the ball well. It's not like the year we won the championship when we had 4 or 5 kids that all shot above 34% from the 3 or 36%. And we could spread the floor really, really well. So we know that. So there are certain areas that we have to focus on and we have to be really good at in order to win basketball games. Taking care of the ball and rebounding are the 2 areas. And so when we struggle with taking care of the ball and you don't shoot the ball well, now we struggle to win. So those are, if you're wondering I wonder what their focus is. What do they go into every game having to do? That's our focus. That's our non-negotiable. We have to go 12 turnovers or less, and we have to get more than 15 O-boards or more and hold them to under 10. Those are our game goals.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, something that has been a bright spot certainly the last several games has been Anel Dutat, AD, 3 straight double-doubles, I believe up to 5 on the year now. Had a great game, career high last time out individually against George Washington. But what have you seen from the growth of her game throughout the year? I know she's had some quieter games, certainly on the stat sheet, but she's really started to emerge as of late.
In the beginning of the year, AD's we've taken her from a forward player or a post player to a guard. And it's not an easy task to do, especially face up and play outside the three-point line, passing, dribbling, shooting. It's a lot. And she worked all off season on making this transition. And so it took her a while to feel comfortable. She's still not quite comfortable with shooting the three. It's not a natural thing. She's gotten much better at it, but her face-up skills now and her guard skills have improved to the point where she's starting to get comfortable. And now you have a guard trying to box her out where that's a problem. And so it just was a matter of time for her to learn the new position. She'll still play a little bit of 4, but for her pro career, because she's so little, she's an undersized post player, she's got to have that face-up game. And so the versatility for her was key, and it just took a while. And we're not really about putting players in boxes. When they say, Coach, I want to transform into this, and this is where I want to go, we'll give them that ability. We did the same thing with MP Faposi, taking her from a 4 to a 3, and it took her a while to learn the position. But that's AD's natural progression, is to become a 3-player, and she's just getting comfortable at it now and finding her pace. But the biggest thing with AD over the course of the last 3 weeks is she's been extremely aggressive on both sides of the ball. And so when you're aggressive offensively, that comes naturally. You're going to score. You're going to get fouled. And I think AD's she's looking to score now, whereas before everything was, I'm not sure. I don't know where I fit in the offense. She was thinking pass first and very passive. That's the click, the change in her mentality of becoming an aggressive offensive player now.
Yeah, and I think that's an underrated part, certainly about the program, but also when you look at the French Connection specifically, is being able to have versatility in your role, coming over not just to do one thing, which stands out a lot. And you talked a little bit about toughness as well. I think outside of Saturday's game, even in the games that you've fallen behind towards the end, there's always a push late. There's never a moment where the team truly gives up. How important is that aspect when you go into a tournament, when you go into March?
Well, I tell them this all the time is, you got to play the game the right way. And, fans I said the biggest compliment I get from people is your team plays hard. They compete. They don't quit. They don't lay down. We may not shoot the ball particularly well in the game, or we may not execute, but they'll never quit on us. And that's what I'm most proud of, and I respect in them, is no matter what, they'll make a push. And they've done that the past 2 games that we've been down, and we went down big at St. Louis on the road, and they had a furious comeback. The last 4.5 minutes, if they would have played that way the whole game, we probably would have won by 12 or 14, but they made that push. Same thing against G-Dub. We were down big, we got down, and they made a push, and we made a comeback. We couldn't close either one out, but that's important to know and they know this, they can win any game. They also know if we don't do what we need to do, you could lose any game. And so in March, it's your back's against the wall. Every game is life or death for us because we have to win to go to postseason. So it's all about letting it all hang out and putting everything you got on that floor. And you can't walk off the floor going, I have anything left. Not the first game, not the second game, and not the last game. You got to let it all hang out, and it's one game at a time. And I know they'll do that. That I know.
No question about it. We're talking with Tammi Reiss on the Tammi Reiss Coaches Show, and at the end of games, when you're looking for stops, you're looking for that toughness. The 2 players we've got here that we're going to talk to later are a huge part of what you're doing. Sophia Vital and Ines Debroise will join us on the back end of the show. I know this is an episode you're excited about, having been a point guard yourself, and having 2 great ones, arguably 2 top 10 point guards in the conference on the same team, and being able to coach them, having been in their shoes before. How cool is that for you as a coach to be able to kind of pass that on to them?
Point guard is my favorite position. It's, in my opinion, as a coach, it's the most important position on the floor. and to have two of them that also I can play at the same time, especially when we need to play fast, when we need to get defensive stops and pick up and press. They're our catalysts. They get us going. They're our spark. Ines, although she comes off the bench, there's a reason she comes off the bench. She gives us that spark we need a lot of times when we're flat. And she brings that energy. I call her the Energizer Bunny. And then as you've seen, Soph has won us multiple games at the end of games, made the layup, got to the basket when we needed her to win us games at the buzzer. And so, for them, their growth exponentially every season has been huge for us. And it has to be for us to be good. And so I'm excited for them to get on the mic because I really want their growth to come in leadership and communication. So I want them to be, I'm trying to push the extrovert and the over talk and the over communicate. So things like this, I'm really excited for them to get out and open their mouths and let their voices be heard, because that's what a point guard should be. These two are natural leaders on our team. And I put the most expectations on them. I challenge them the most. AD can make a mistake. I blame Ines and Sophie V. Honey makes a mistake. I blame Ines. And as a point guard, it's the truth, because you're the leader. You're responsible for everyone. And I've taken this from Sue Bird, is from her freshman year when she stepped on the floor. She was like, Gino, why are you yelling at me? It's Diana. He goes, everything's your fault. You're a point guard. And that's why you're a point guard. It is the most you got to organize everyone. You got to take responsibility for everyone. And you got to be me on the floor, and we have to have that communication. So for me, there's not even another position that comes close. So these two are the most two important people on our team. So I'm glad they're here, and I'm glad they're here for our last show.
Absolutely. And for those who are listening, there were some funny grins from that side of the room when you were going through all that, which was quite amusing. And it's something, too, that stood out to me, too, is obviously in early December there was a change in the starting lineup. And I think in a lot of teams, sometimes that can maybe cause a rift or can throw things off. If anything, I feel like for your group, it made things gel even better. Talk about kind of the testament to the leadership of these two to be able to handle their roles and play the way they have after a change like that.
Well, I think it speaks volumes for maturity on both their parts, because there was a year that Sophie V sat behind Ines and didn't start the whole, she may have started a few games, and Ines then does that with Soph, and then Ines will come back and start. But, that's the maturity of, they compete every day against each other in practice and push each other to get better. But in order, to win, sometimes you have to sacrifice what you want. And I would be upset if neither one of them were like, hey, you can start it. And no, I like a bloodbath in practice. I want them both to want to start, because as a player, that's the competitor in you. And they both should want to start. And I have no problem having to explain why you're not starting, or I have no problem with that. But I say this all the time. It doesn't matter who starts a game. It matters who finishes the game on the floor. That's the most important component. And a lot of times, both of them will be on the floor to finish a game, because I trust them both tremendously. With, when we're in dire straits and we need to score or we need to stop, they're on the floor. But it just bodes to their maturity level, their belief in one another, and their relationship. I say this all the time. Our girls genuinely like each other. They really do. They challenge each other, but when it's all said and done and they walk off the floor, they're friends and they support one another. And so, I'm really proud of them. And they don't always want to accept it, but they do. And they put the team before all of their individual goals that they have set for themselves a lot of times. And that's what teams need to do in order to win. It's not what you always want, but sometimes it's what's best for the team. So I'm really proud of both of them for how they handle situations like that, because it's not easy.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask, too, a few people have made some observations that since you've taken over, you tend to, disregard size a little more often than maybe some other coaches, going back to, Dolly Cairns, for example. And, the way these two play, in particular, Big Soph, you wouldn't even know, that they might not be the tallest player on the floor. If you're measuring by heart, they're taller than a lot of players out there. Talk about that. Talk about, what you look for in a player and maybe why you don't necessarily look at size as much as maybe others.
I've never looked at size. When I played, I'm all of 5'5". Dawn was 5'5", and she was Player of the Year 2 years in a row. And it's not the size of the dog; it's the size of the fight in the dog. And these two have a heart. They've got fight there, so you can't measure that. Those are the things I look for: their competitive fire, their fight, their will to want to win, their energy. All the intangible things. God doesn't always bless you with Albina size or Honey size. Some of us don't get blessed with that, so we have to find other ways to make ourselves known and make ourselves present on the court. And when I watched those two play, they reminded me of me in that respect, that they've got that. And so I'll say it again, it isn't always the size. Some of the best players in the country, they're not big. They really aren't. But they're dogs. They're fighters. And those are the things we look for, intangible things that they bring outside of size. So I don't always discredit. Now, I can't have a bunch of midgets or little people. Let me politically correct. Take that back. I'll wheel that back. I can't have a bunch of little people. I can't be 5'5", 5'6", 5'6", 5'10", 5'8". You're gonna pose some problems there. But when you have point guards or certain positions, you can again mask that pretty easily. So that never worried me about these two at all.
Yeah, looking ahead, obviously, you've got the tournament coming up this week. You've talked before about just how competitive the conference is, and also the Henrico, again, being the second year it's hosted the tournament, and how much you enjoy that as a site for the tournament. So just talk about those two things. What do you enjoy about the conference, as a whole this season, and also about where you'll be next week?
I think the conference was extremely competitive this year from top to bottom. Every game was a dogfight, really was. I think Richmond was probably the only one that, had a lot of wins with blowouts, whereas even George Mason or St. Joe's, took some L's and there was a lot of close games. So from top to bottom, I think the conference was super competitive, which I was really happy with this year. And then Henrico, I'm glad we're not playing at regional sites, of our schools. That's not a real conference tournament where the men get to go to always have had a conference tournament. And the women, we've kind of had to go to lower seed sites until we get – that's not a conference tournament. That doesn't even feel like a tournament. So I'm really proud of the A-10 of finding a home for us the past couple of years. And we sell out. It's packed. It feels like a conference tournament. The only thing I don't like about it is I think after 3 years – the teams down in the South get a little bit of an advantage. It's definitely a home court advantage for Richmond, VCU, and George Mason. But I do love the fact that we have a true conference tournament. And I'm hoping after the following year, we find a site up here in the North a little bit closer, maybe New York or Philly again, that we can have it up north and kind of benefit some of the teams up in the North for the following 3 or 4 years.
I will say Rhody Nation, gave a good cheer last year. They really packed the stands, and that was great to see as well in the tournament. I wanted to ask you as well, obviously last year, by the time the tournament ended, missed out on March Madness, missed out on the WBIT, and I think some people were caught off guard that you declined the WNIT, which for those who don't know is now the third tier, postseason tournament. Obviously this year, different group coming in, a lot of new faces. Obviously your goal is to get to March Madness, get to an NCAA-sponsored tournament. But if that is something that's offered to your group again, do you anticipate considering it, or is the WNIT more out of the picture, looking for bigger goals in the future?
It has to do a lot with our school, not me. So the WNIT, yes, is now the third-tier tournament. It's not sponsored by the NCAA. You pick up most of the bill, which is very, very expensive. And half the tournament, there's teams with losing records in it. So if we're going to do that, well, let's just let everyone in the tournament. It's not true postseason. And so, we feel, and I agree with our school, is the NCAA and the WBIT, those two tournaments, they're NCAA sponsored. They're real postseason tournaments with, winning records and makes for a great tournament. And our school feels the same way. So you have to put a bid in. You're either going WBIT or WNIT. And we put a bid in for the WBIT. So you can't come back and then go, okay, now we want to go to the WN. So you can't even do that. So I think last year people didn't understand that. They didn't really know, what is the WBIT? That's the new real tournament with the next 30-plus teams that don't make the NCAA field of 64. It's those teams. And so now you've got two great tournaments. And then the WNIT kind of fell into, we'll let pretty much anyone in who accepts the bid and host. And then your school has to pick up a lot of the bill. So we are just not in that place. We want to go to the NCAA or we want to go to the WBIT right now. And that's how our school feels. And I support that. So the WNIT, we have not put a bid in because we went and put a bid for the WBIT.
I have a feeling I know how you're going to answer this next question, which has been talked about around these parts a few times, but obviously there's this big question, should the NCAA tournament expand? I feel like I know how you're going to answer that question, but when you hear that, what do you think about the idea of expanding?
Well, I think if you're going to expand, then do away with the WBIT and make all the teams in the same tournament. I don't understand why you have two tournaments. If you're going to add another tournament and call it the WBIT and you want to expand this tournament, just take those teams and throw them in there. Now you have one tournament, and that's as far as I think you should go. I just think teams work so hard to make the NCAA out of that field of 64 or 68. You work so hard. It means something. If you just keep expanding it for money or for whatever the reason, it doesn't mean as much. It's watered down. It doesn't have the same feel. And I believe those teams should be rewarded for that. So if you want to do away with the WBIT, go ahead and combine it. That's the field. But don't expand this and keep this tournament. And now everyone's making the postseason. It just doesn't have that same meaning. When you make the postseason, it feels special because you worked for it. And it's very hard to make the postseason. It just really is. So, that's my feeling of it. I don't think you just expand to expand. You either get rid of that, combine them, or leave it the way it is. You got to make that field to get into the NCAAs. And I believe that. I think you got to work really hard to do it, even though I think that it's skewed now for the BCS schools to make it and not the mid-majors. And that's a shame because I think the mid-major, those upsets are what make the tournament. And so I wouldn't have messed with any of the metrics. I wouldn't have tried, because that's the beauty of March Madness. It's why we all watch. We watch to watch the 16 upset the 1 seed. We watch that, and that's why everyone tunes in. So why they would want to do away with that is beyond me.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you hope to get to postseason. You hope for another big run. What the tagline might be for that run, that's to be decided another time. It was a great Why Not Us last year was awesome. But, just to close this segment out, any last words going into the tournament? What are you most looking forward to, and any last message you have for Rhody Nation?
I'm just looking forward to a reset and seeing a really, really hungry team that's going to show up and play with just a crazy sense of urgency, not pressure, which I thought is what we played with against St. Louis and George Washington. The pressure to win. I thought that they wanted to do everything perfectly, and when they didn't, they couldn't get themselves out of it. They did not try. I want them to just lose themselves in the compete and just leave it all out on the floor and not worry about a missed shot or a turn. Just show up and make it up. Next possession. Be a goldfish. Have a 6-second memory and just move on. And how hard can we play when we got down there? And that's what we did last year. It's what we did. We just lost ourselves in competing and wanting to win. And that's what I want to see going in. And then again to Rhody Nation. That last, it's what I think hurt me the most, why we couldn't send Rhody Nation out with a win and my 3 seniors out with a win. That's what hurt me most. But to see all those people show up and support us, it just meant the world to our team, to our coaching staff, and to me and our administration. I love our fans, and I would love nothing more, and I know our team feels the same way, is to go down to Richmond, shock the world, and come out of there with the A10 conference championship and go to the tournament. That's what I want.
Well, we certainly all hope that it will happen. First game Thursday at 1:30 against the winner of George Washington. It could be a rematch or Loyola Chicago. We'll step aside on the Tammi Reiss Coaches Show. Of Ines Debroise on next, one of our two very special guests on the second half of the show. But we'll be right back. This is the Tammi Reiss Coaches Show, powered by the Mews Tavern. Back on the Tammi Reiss Coaches Show, presented by the Mews Tavern, also live on the Rhody Sports Network. We want to give a quick thank you to Newport Propane, Rhode Island's #1 choice for all your propane needs. Family owned and operated since 1959. Newport Propane will treat you like part of the family. Visit them at newportpropane.com. We have one of our very special guests here up next on the show, Ines Debroise, captain for Rhody, junior point guard. And just recently, you're now in the top 10 most assists in a career in Rhode Island history at 295, which is 8th best. So congratulations on that. I want to start. I asked you off air, and I'll ask you on air again, just to ease into it here. How do you like the food at the Mews? Because I know this is one of the best spots around. I know you're very into the French cuisine. So, what did you like here? What's your go-to Mews meal?
I didn't went that much to the Mews, but tonight I went for a burrito. But I have a funny story about the Mews Tavern. Like, the first time my parents came over to the U.S., my mom came here to eat a salad, and she hated it because she wanted a Caesar salad. And in France, with the Caesar salad, we have chicken, and she didn't get chicken, so she hated the Mews.
Oh, no. George, I don't know if you're listening. Just make sure the Caesar salads have chicken in them from now on. Obviously, so, you're in your third year here at Rhode Island. As we talked about, top 10 in assists, which is incredible. And, you're obviously part of the French connection as well coming in. And you're kind of in a stage now. You're in your second year as a captain. You've seen kind of some of the older players come along, and now you're welcoming in some freshmen. How have you kind of seen your leadership grow over the years, being a captain and having the opportunity now to mentor some of the players coming in?
I think, every year, I feel like I'm growing, especially in the leadership, how to talk to people, how to go at people. Because, when you're coming as a freshman is where, you ask advice, you ask, how things going. But, when you, go into a second year as a captain, you really have, responsibility for other players, help other players and new players.
Yeah, I'm sure it helps, too, that, you've played with so many of these players even before coming to Rhody. Mm-hmm. I know you've played with Maye before our national teams. You've played with Palmier before she got here. How does that help team chemistry? You already know some of the faces. You can trust them when you're on the court.
I think it really, like you said, it really helped because you don't have to have this whole process to really get to know the person when you already play with them or, really spend time with them. Like Palmier, we were in the same high school for almost 3 years, so it really helped when you go back to play with people you're very used to play.
Yeah, and I can imagine that gives you a sense of home, and I know some of the non-French players on the team, they try to pick up some French along the way too. I'm not sure how up to par Coach's French is yet, but if you had to pick one of the American players on the team, who is excelled the most at French out of that group?
I would say my top two will be Sophie P. No, sorry, Soph, not you, but Sophie P. and Rhody.
Yeah, I believe I read somewhere that's Sophie P. took a French class,
yes,
and she was always going to you for pointers, and it's coaching all over the place. It's not just basketball, but that's the sign of a true great player. We talked a little bit with Coach about the fact that you all are point guards, and obviously, Coach Reiss being a point guard in her playing days. How valuable is that for you as a player to have a head coach that not only understands your position, but also did it at the highest level where you're at now?
I think it's very valuable, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity because I think it's rare to have a head coach who play your position, and it's very beneficial. She knows what she's talking about when she's talking about us because she been in our position, our shoes, and what it is to be a point guard. So it's very helpful, like, to have a head coach being a point guard.
Yeah, it also, you probably grow some thick skin given that you also get a lot of the responsibility as she talked about.
Yes.
I also wanted to ask you too, your unofficial nickname seems to be the Energizer Bunny. I'm not sure how big of a fan you are of that nickname, but you really do play with so much intensity on the court, and you've gotten so much more confident as well as your career has gone on. And even when you've missed some time with injuries, you're always, so active in the huddle, so active on the bench. Just talk about where that energy comes from for you and what brings that out for you on the court.
I would say it's just because I love basketball. Like, I'm enjoying, I love to spend time on the court, like, with the girls, like, being part of a team. And it's just like, my energy, my enthusiasm, and everything is just like showing how it feels like to be on the court and play basketball.
Yeah, and I will say for you and for Big Soph, you both have such amazing passes. I'm not sure how you're able to see whether it's a lob or some long bounce pass with an angle that, who even knows how you thought of that. Are those things you practice, whether it's, during practice time with the team or kind of on your own, or is that something that just comes naturally to you when you're on the floor?
I think, of course, like, we walk about it, like we watch film, but I think it's still like a little bit of instinct on the great and risky passes. I don't know if Coach Tammi is every time fan of our risky passes, but when he's going through, he's good.
and obviously you get to share the backcourt with one of the other top point guards in the conference in Big Soph. What's it like to play with her, and what's it like to see her improvements since the start of last year to now?
I think she really grew, like, compared to last year. Like, you can see, like, she's taking much more responsibility about her communication. She's getting better too. I think she really tried to get out of her comfort zone, and playing with her, like, I feel we find each other, and the way we play together, like, we really like find our way and give energy to each other, like, and find each other on the court. I think is something we're not struggling with, and we're very good at it.
Yeah, I feel like there's got to be a nickname for when you both are on the floor together. We're taking open applications for this if anyone has ideas, but there's just such a dynamic, factor out there when you're both on the floor together. And obviously, I know for you, obviously Coach Tammi is great for you, having been a point guard, and then Coach A also has, he kind of leads that French connection. He brings you all together, which is so cool. I always like to ask, everyone when we get a guest from the French Connection, if you have any Coach A stories. I think you know where this is going. If you had to pick one Coach A story to tell that you can tell, which would you share?
I don't know, stories. I don't know, but I know when he's really mad at us, he speaks to us in French.
So that's a sign that something's not going right. Well, I will say, I obviously back in the day, Tammi was a big prankster. I don't know if you could top any of that, but Coach A's right on you too in terms of that. I wanted to ask, obviously you're almost through your third season at Rhody. That big run last year in the tournament was so exciting for everybody, but if you had to kind of pick one moment for you that stands out in your time at Rhode Island, whether it's on the court, basketball, or something off the court with your teammates, what would you pick?
I think a game who was very powerful. It was during the tournament last year when we won against the Angels, because during the season we played them 2 times and we lost 2 times, and playing them again during the tournament, I think we really came to compete, like, battle. And I don't know if Coach Tammi said, like, we always say, like, yeah, UMass, when we play UMass is a rivalry game, but I really feel like when we play St. Joe's, like, it's a different energy game, and I feel it's one of my best memory when we won against them during the tournament. Yeah,
there's one memory in my mind that stands out, and I think there's a picture of you slapping the Rhody sticker on the bracket on the wall, and I think that signified that run so well. I wanted to touch back on the kind of the French Connection aspect. You've talked before about kind of the growth of women's sports in France. Mm-hmm. How important do you think is what you're doing, what your teammates are doing here, and also other French players across the country to kind of bringing awareness and bringing excitement to women's sports in France?
I think since last year, like, women's sport very, very developed. I think a lot of people start going to women's game, watching women's game, and I feel like as French, I know like it's very different compared to like here, and France is very different, and I think showing like all the opportunity we have here in the US can like change different stuff in France, because I feel like we don't have the culture of sport, like all the show, the basketball, the people, the fan, the cheer, like a lot of different things are so much different compared to France. And I feel like be able like to share this experience to people, I think we can really make an impact and develop this type of thing, what happened in the US in France. And also like about be able like to have study or be able to work and be able like to have a degree. I think is something like we don't like valuable enough, I would say. Because in France it's not possible. So very grateful for that.
Yeah, and it was also cool to have the Olympics in France, and you got to see Coach Reiss doing her thing there, getting the bronze medal, which was amazing. As we're heading towards the next break, wanted to leave the final word to you. Anything you wanted to share with Rhody Nation and anything you're excited about for the tournament coming up this week?
I would say thank you so much for everybody for keep coming, supporting us, and like the whole team is very grateful for all of your support, of all of the love you're giving us, and especially like me personally, like coming from France, not having my family, like seeing the same people, like having the same people like texting you or like giving you a hug after games, even if it's a loss, or especially when it's a wins too. But like having that is really like comforting, and we really appreciate it. And like Coach Tammi said, like we really look forward, and we really have to turn from what happened like during the season, because it's 0-0. Like everything can happen, and I would say like we have no pressure, we have nothing to lose. Like probably nobody like waiting for us. So I think we just have to come compete and just like show what we're really capable of.
Yeah, I can say certainly all of us are excited here to see if you guys can go on another big run this week down in Henrico. We certainly are looking forward to it. We're going to take another break. Thanks to Ines for hopping on the Coaches Show with us. After the break, we're going to talk with the other point guard on Rhody, Big Soph, Sophia Vital. She's up next on the Tammi Reiss Coaches Show, powered by the Mews Tavern. Welcome back to the Tammi Reiss Coaches Show, powered by the Mews Tavern. We're live on the Rhody Sports Network as well. We want to give a thank you to the Pizza Gourmet. Rhode Island's Wood Grilled Pizza Crust is a proud sponsor of URI Athletics. World-class medical imaging, order online today at woodgrilledcrust.com. That's woodgrilledcrust.com. That's how you know you've done too many sponsor reads over the years. To my right, we've got the other point guard for Rhody, Big Soph, Sophia Vital, joining us on the show. I want to give a congrats to you as well. You've also made your mark in the record book this year, 128 assists and counting is the 8th best in a season in Rhode Island history. And then on your birthday against St. Louis, you had 14 assists, which was the most since 1996, and only player that's had more assists in the game than you is Dana Smith, who's in the Ring of Honor at Rhode Island. So that's some pretty good company to be a part of. I wanted to start the same way I start with Ines. Obviously, the food here is so good at the Mews. What is your go-to?
I just go with a cheeseburger. It's nice and easy, and it's good every time.
No issues.
Classic cheeseburger works every time.
No issues with chicken or no chicken in the salad, which is always good.
No issues.
And
the Shirley Temple here is really good.
I was gonna say that looked good. It caught my eye over there.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I might have to grab one on the way out. I wanted to go back to that first St. Louis game where you had 14 assists, because that hadn't happened in almost 30 years, which is incredible, and it happened on your birthday. What did that mean to you to have that performance, and just what is your memory of that moment?
I was just really happy to just get my teammates the ball. It's something I take pride in and I really love to do. Coach talks about it all the time, how I'm like a true point guard, and it was a testament to my teammates for making all those shots and getting me those assists.
Yeah. Now, you of course attended Tabor Academy, Massachusetts, and on a personal level, I love seeing Division I players come from Mass, because that's also where I come from. And you had a lot of pretty good offers coming out of high school, just to name a few: Providence, UMass, Wisconsin. I think SMU was in there as well, FIU. You had certainly your choice of schools, but Rhode Island was your first offer, and you decided to stay here close to home at Rhody. Talk about, what led you to being Rhody Raymond, why you wanted to be here.
I think it was just the relationship that I built with the coaches, and also being able to just visit Rhode Island whenever, and getting to see the girls, getting to see their point of view about the coaches, because, I don't know, sometimes the coaches don't always tell you the truth, but yeah, but it wasn't the case with Tammi. Like, all the girls said exactly what she was saying to me, so it was really nice and comforting in that way. And yeah, just being close to home. Also, I'm really close with my family. Like, I know a bunch of you have met everyone in my family, which is really nice that I get to have them come to basically all the home games.
Yeah, and as we heard, Coach say earlier, she's not going to lie to you. Maybe even overdoes the truth at times when she's looking for someone to dish the blame on. But you get to dish it out on the court and get some assists, which is great as well. You've had 9 games with 5 or more assists this year, which is incredible. You've really taken a jump from year 1 to year 2. Talk about kind of your journey, since coming to Rhode Island. What have you seen in your game that you've really worked on and improved over the years that's now paying off?
I think I've always had the natural instinct to just get my teammates the ball. I think a big thing for me this year especially is just being more aggressive and looking to score, and that way it'll make it easier for me to find people and get them open. Just like being more of a scoring point guard and looking for my options, and then also finding other people, getting them the ball.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to your first career start, which I think was the closest possible place you could have made your first career start, out at Harvard near your hometown. Just talk about what that moment meant to you, and the ovation you got from the crowd too as you were being introduced.
It was actually really nice, because actually an old AAU program or old travel team that I used to play for, a bunch of the girls came out to see me play, and no one was really expecting me to start, so it was just kind of like a full circle moment to see like my family there and everybody there supporting me.
Yeah, certainly. That was a cool moment to see as well for all of us. And I also wanted to ask you, too, about your rebounding. Obviously, you're not the tallest player on the floor, but you still managed to get a ton of rebounds. It seems every game, anywhere from 4 to 6 at least, if not more. And I think it comes down to the amount of heart you have and not your height, which I think I love about your game. Just talk about has that always been something that you've incorporated into your game, from high school and even earlier? Is that something that's kind of come more recently now at Rhode Island?
Yeah, I always when it comes to my height, it just doesn't really matter to me. Like, especially when it comes to rebounding, like, if I see, I was always boxing out the best, offensive rebounder. I know she's going to hold her off, so I'm just going to go grab the ball, every time. And I'm trying to get coach to let me offensive rebound, but they keep sending me back on defense so I can get more rebounds. I'm trying to tell them I can get offensive rebounds, but, yeah.
Hey, you're getting some steals as well, which makes up for it, certainly. Yeah. So you're doing it all out there for sure. I kind of like the dynamic you and Ines have, where you're kind of that quiet, confident leader, but you have that confidence. You'll take the shots. You've won some games, at the last moment this year. Just talk about what's it like to play with Ines, and then late in games, kind of what comes over you. Where does that come from, that aggressiveness that you have at the end?
I love playing with Ines. Both of us out there, either she can get the outlet and push the ball, or I can get it, and we just get to run and just play free. That's when we play best, when we get to play in transition and just get out and run is just the best, and me and Ines do it really well together.
I said this earlier, I say it again. I feel like there should be a nickname for you two when you're both on the floor. We are taking applications if anyone has ideas on what that should be. But I also want to ask about, kind of your off-court ventures. Obviously, we live in a world of NIL and all of that, and there's so much talk around it. And I've noticed over the last few months, you and Sophie Phillips have both done some work with the Rhode Island Lottery. There's the Rhode Island Game Changer Challenge. Just talk a little bit about your work with them and what that's all about.
So they just kind of have us posting and help, making things like people aware of gambling issues and youth gambling, especially, was the last thing that I posted about, and just healthier ways to gamble and just different options and opportunities for people to do it.
Yeah, I think that's such an important issue, and it's great that you and some of your teammates are tackling that as well. I also wanted to ask you, too, about, especially when you first got in the starting lineup when conference play was starting, your assist-to-turnover ratio was incredible. You were in the company of Paige Beckers at UConn, Olivia Miles at Notre Dame, Kiki Rice at UCLA, among other names. Obviously, you don't play for individual stats. You play to get wins and as a team. But just what did it mean to you to kind of perform at a level where you're in that company as a point guard?
I think it was just kind of expected. Like, Coach gets on me, Ines, like, every single day about taking care of the ball and just getting it where it needs to go. And like she said, everything is literally our fault. If somebody else turns the ball over, it's our turnover. So we really try to value and take care of the ball when we're in the game.
Yeah, we know Coach Reiss is a prankster. We've heard some stories before. Do you have anything to add, or are you going to pass off and hope that maybe you get an easier practice maybe tomorrow?
No, I do have something funny actually. It was one time during the game. She tries to do things to like get us hyped up and whatever. And she's sitting there in front of AD, and she's like, "AD, let's go," and start slapping her in the face. And then it was just hilarious. And then before like every game when we line up and walk out, she'll like tap me in the head and be like, "Let's go," like do little things like that to just get us hyped.
I don't think there's any question in terms of energy. Good luck matching what you guys have here at Rhody. Absolutely incredible. And speaking of energy, it's going to be a lot of it this coming week down at the tournament, down at Henrico. Again, I'll leave the floor to you to close it out. What are you most excited for this coming week down in Richmond at the tournament, and any other message you have for Rhody Nation?
I think Ines really said it. We're just really excited to get down there and compete. Obviously, we didn't have the best ending of our season, but it's a new season when it comes to the tournament, and we're really determined and ready to compete and get the win. And I also want to say, like Ines said, thank you to all the fans for supporting us. We wouldn't be able to do the things that we do without you guys, so thank you.
It's going to be really exciting, and first game will be Thursday at 1:30 against the winner of George Washington or Loyola Chicago. I want to give a few thanks before we sign off. The Rhody Sports Properties team that's here, Chris and James, they do an incredible job behind the scenes making it all happen. Want to thank our SID, Michaela Benford, who's here as well, doing all that amazing work. Andrew Meehan, our producers, he's the reason we're on air. And of course, we want to thank Coach Reiss, Ines, and Sophia for all joining us and being excellent guests on our show. Thanks to everyone who made it out to the Mews tonight. You've been listening to the Tammi Reiss Coaches Show, powered by the Mews Tavern. We'll see you all this week down in Richmond.
This has been the Tammi Reiss Show. Tonight's show has been brought to you by People's Credit Union, the official partner of URI Women's Athletics. Dunkin' Donuts, sip the Rhody way. Rhode Island Medical Imaging, the official medical imaging company of URI Athletics. Newport Propane, Rhode Island's #1 choice for all your propane needs. Ortho Rhode Island, the official orthopedic and sports medicine provider for URI Athletics. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation of the Rhody Sports Network.